Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, we'll be talking about something a little bit different and oblique in this one. I'm going to talk about some New Year's resolutions for all 12 zodiac signs. And yes, I'm referring to the sun, moon, and ascendant with these signs. So, anyway, let me get started. Aries. For Aries is known to be have a lot of fortitude, valor, and courage. They could be very outspoken. To some people, sometimes this can come across as being abrasive. Aries is often not malicious, but they just call it as they see it. They're straight shooters, so to speak, and they basically, a heart's a heart, a diamond's a diamond, and they're not afraid to come out and say it. Now, I would say perhaps the resolution for Aries for this year, how about maybe not always being very impulsive about things, a little less impatience, and also outspokenness can be good in certain situations, but there's always a way to say something without coming across as being disputatious. One can dispute a point without seeming like they're being argumentative, or I mean the perception could be that of Aries, that might not be the intention of them, and it can, in some people, may be taken aback by the outspokenness of Aries. So maybe one resolution is to kind of maybe tone down the outspoken part to some degree, or people can be direct without maybe saying something in a way that might inadvertently hurt another person. So that's for Aries. Now, for Taurus. Now, Taurus is about being persistent. They're very persevering. They work through obstacles generally very well. However, Taurus can sometimes be very caught up in their own philosophy and their own way of doing things, and a lot of times this could be advantageous and beneficial in a way, because they might have that philosophy, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But sometimes people, we need to come out of the box, so to speak. I have Taurus rising, as a lot of you know, and I often don't deviate from my general routine and way of doing things. And sometimes it's good to maybe hear another person's perspective or vantage point on something, and just maybe listen to it, and maybe just try to expand your horizons, so to speak. So that's for Taurus, for the New Year's resolution. And the next sign, Gemini, which is completely almost the antithesis of Taurus in certain ways. Gemini is very versatile, very multifaceted. They like to do many things. They get very bored and restless very quickly. So for Gemini, though can lack persistence, it's about starting things and following up on them. And Geminis are just so interested in so many things. I think that's attributed a lot of times the lack of persistence with Geminis. However, with Geminis can often assimilate a lot of things very quickly and learn at such a rapid pace, faster than a lot of other people can. So a lot of times they don't always need that persistence. However, it's still better to try to have a little more follow through on things for Gemini. So that's what I would basically look at as far as for Geminis, and as far as the resolution for this year. Now Cancer. Hey, I'm a Sun in Cancer, a lot of you know. Cancers can be very introverted, very homebody-ish. I know I'm inventing my own vocabulary words, right? For Cancer, sometimes it's similar to Taurus, maybe to come out maybe of the box a little bit. Cancers can be very traditional. Now the personalities can sometimes be fickle and changeable for a Cancer, but Cancers can be creatures of habit. And also, being a water sign, Cancer can be very sensitive, and especially to ridicule and things that sometimes that are maybe just put constructively to them that might be critical. Now, it's one thing if somebody's really being derisive and saying something, being belligerent. I think a lot of people will be sensitive to those kind of remarks, somebody acting in an insolent manner. But myself included, there's been times when people have given me constructive criticism, and I responded a little stronger to it than what was necessary, I believe. So that's one thing I would say for Cancer. And to be more, Cancers can often be very introverted, as I stated before, and the ideal maybe for this year is to be more extroverted and gregarious as well. So the next sign, well, Leo. Leo is about pride and dignity, and for Leo, sometimes it's best to curtail your pride to some degree. It's okay to be dignified and to be proud of things such as your accomplishments, for example. But for Leo, I would say an abundance of pride can sometimes be to their detriment. Leos generally are not vindictive, and they don't hold grudges for the most part. However, if one does, it seems like it can be for a very protracted period of time, and because their pride is wounded. Now, I really think that is one of the things. And Leos, even though they're just naturally charismatic and they're flamboyant, you don't always have to be maybe the center of attention. I'm not saying all are, but the ones that feel compelled to be right at that attention mark or what have you, don't always have to be, because sometimes it's about letting someone else be strong. So that's another thing as far as the resolutions for Leo. Now, talk about Virgo. Now, Virgo is a very reticent, can be shy, introverted sign. They can be very intellectual and analytical, but sometimes their analysis is such where they will often find the critical, the flaws of somebody. And now, constructive criticism is okay. There's nothing wrong with that if something's said in a way using tact and diplomacy. However, sometimes Virgos can be somewhat or come across as judgmental. Virgos are generally not mean. They don't strike me, most of them, for as far as being malicious. But sometimes if the criticism that they give out, if it becomes somewhat incessant in someone's perception might be that it's coming across maybe mean to some degree or derogatory, when it usually isn't. But the thing is to maybe cut down, even if it's constructive criticism, as far as Virgo goes. And just because if somebody makes one mistake or a clerical error, it doesn't always have to be pointed out. Virgos have the tendency to scrutinize and analyze very strongly. So that is, as far as resolutions go, that would be something to consider for Virgo. Now, Libra. Now, Libra is similar to Virgo in the sense that they're often about tact and diplomacy. Libra is about refinement. However, with Libra, they like things to be fair and equitable, and I understand that. However, Libra doesn't always have, or not necessarily always, but Libra doesn't have to be the mediator or the one that reconciles all the time. Sometimes they could let someone else maybe do that, and it's okay to take sides sometimes if you're in the right corner. See, the key is, even other signs besides Libra often don't like to really get involved and say, well, you're wrong and this person's right, because what happens is they could be unwittingly instigating a problem with the person that they're going against, in terms of mutual friend, in terms of if they have a situation with an argument between friends of theirs. So I understand that. Sometimes it's best to let the people resolve the issues on their own and to just work things that way. I'm not saying it's wrong to reconcile or be the mediator, but sometimes you just have to look at the right situations in doing so. And it's okay sometimes to be disputatious. No, not really disputatious that in an angry way necessarily, but it's okay to disagree sometimes in a constructive way. Libras are often about being passive and peaceful, but it's okay to give a constructive difference in viewpoint. So those are some things to consider for resolutions for Libra this year. Now, for Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign that's very charismatic, very powerful, can be domineering. It's a dominant sign, very dynamic, and Scorpio can often come on very powerful and strong to others. Now, it's kind of hard to take back things that are part of your natural demeanor and personality, and I get that and I understand that. However, sometimes Scorpio may need to take a step back and not come on necessarily as strong as they do in a lot of situations, and uh, people can see that Scorpio is a strong sign. I think they could sense it a lot of times, even if they're not coming on as powerful as they are, and or as what they show sometimes. So that is things to consider. Scorpios generally do not take things lightly. A lot of things will be significant to them, even if another person might think something's kind of superfluous or trivial. So it's about toning down the intensity a little bit. So that's something to consider for Scorpio for as far as the New Year's resolutions go. Now, Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a very expansive and buoyant sign. Sagittarius can be very gregarious. They're philosophical. They have a robust sense of humor. Now, Sagittarius, although they can be, those are a lot of good attributes. They could be similar to Aries in terms of the outspoken department, and Sagittarius is about truth-telling. Now, tact and diplomacy are not always the best traits of Sagittarius, and maybe it's just about maybe they don't always have to say the whole truth and nothing but the truth word for word. An omission is okay every now and then if it could spare a person's feelings. So sometimes Sagittarius, and this is nothing bad necessarily, I mean they tell it like it is, and it's a fire sign, and I understand that. But sometimes you could kind of tone it down and use the more diplomatic, tactful approach. So, and I think Sagittarius always feel that they're the perpetual learners, and it's good to learn. It's always good to be progressive and to keep learning things, whether it's through higher education or online or what have you. But you don't always have to keep assimilating knowledge consistently and consistently. It's good to take some breaks every now and then. And Sagittarians like to philosophize, and philosophy is good. But at the same time, they may do this maybe a little bit on the excessively, and it can kind of, in anything after a while can get redundant. So that's something to consider for Sagittarius. Now, for Capricorn, well, Capricorn is a sign that's obviously has a very stern and serious type disposition. They're very practical and pragmatic. Sagittarius sometimes can lighten up, I think. The demeanor of Capricorn is very serious, and it's okay to be whimsical and capricious every now and then, and to just let it out, and have some fun and be ebullient. And I'm not saying Capricorns never have any fun, but on the average, they're more businesslike and serious than as opposed to the average sign, and and maybe a little bit more often they could let that giddy side emerge. So that's something to consider as far as Capricorn goes. And Capricorns may be the type that are so dutiful in terms of their work ethic and habit that it could maybe become all-consuming for them. And it's okay. I mean, Capricorns on average, I think, let the business side, the work side, really sometimes could take over in their lives, and they have to understand it's okay to have fun and maybe take a little more break time here and there. So that's the resolution for Capricorn. Now, Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is known to be somewhat radical. They can be eccentric. Aquarians, I think, sometimes feel compelled to be different, at least on a subconscious level, maybe just for the sake of being different. And it's okay to be progressive, to have that, to maybe not be stuck in what is considered conventional, and try to move forward. But being different for the sake of being different is not always the necessarily great. I mean, it's okay to be innovative, it's okay to be ingenious, it's okay to have new ideas for things, that's all fine. But just for the sake of like dressing away, just for the need to be different, for example, or to have a different viewpoint just for the sake of it being different. I think that's something that's got to be considered. So I'm not saying that Aquarians shouldn't be different as far as a resolution, but sometimes some of the things I think might be very radical, and there might not be really conforming to really as far as right now necessarily. And I'm not saying it's bad to be a nonconformist. I mean, if somebody wants to be different, that's their prerogative. But sometimes somebody can go a little too far in terms of what is different for this particular era. It's good to have progressive ideas and so forth and so on, but just for the uniqueness, just to be borderline, kind of to come across just maybe being very overly unique, I think that could, just for the sake of it, that could be something to consider. And I would think that would be, and also Aquarians can be very unpredictable, being an air sign, and being spontaneous is okay and everything, but sometimes the unpredictability can surprise people and really catch them off guard. So maybe that's something that can be toned down a little bit. And last but not least, Pisces. Now, Pisces is a sign that can be very compassionate, very idealistic. They try to make the best even out of adverse circumstances. Pisces is a sign, however, on the negative side, Pisces can be impressionable. They can be very malleable. They have a way. I think sometimes Pisces just like will be adaptable to a group setting just for the sake of fitting in, and don't always have to go into a group. And I'm not saying all do, but I'm making a general statement. You don't always have to go in a group just for the sake of fitting in and adapting. Pisces, I think sometimes will do that just for the sake, maybe even of having friends. Sometimes Pisces, I think, will often overlook transgressions of others just to retain a friendship. Now, everyone is allowed to make a flaw every now and then, or make a mishap or miscue or mistake or what have you. But Pisces, I think, on an average, allows maybe a little bit more from somebody, and gives maybe people perhaps a little more latitude than what's necessary. So, and I know it's because a lot of times they're trying to be compassionate, they're trying to be kind, but your disposition is often very good, and it's just about, you don't necessarily have to, there's certain things from people you don't have to put up with, and I don't care how long you've known them, if it's been a protracted or prolonged sustained friendship or what have you, you still don't have to do that necessarily. Sometimes it's better to just have one or two quality friends than just have a plethora of them just to say, oh, I know such and such. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for New Year's resolutions for all 12 zodiac signs. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and continuing my series about emphasis of a certain quality in a person's natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.